Our next guest is an inspirational speaker, best-selling author, world-class entrepreneur, and a life and business strategist.
And his podcast, The Ed Mylett Show, is the #1 show on iTunes business category. We are welcoming Ed Mylett here to KTLA 5 News. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Great to be here.
Yeah, coming up from Laguna, a little bit of a drive in the rain this morning.
It was not a quick drive.
For sure. All right, so we're talking about happiness in a little bit, but for folks who are not familiar with you, what's your story in a condensed form?
Condensed version, I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, but for me to become successful in business, I had to overcome a lot of personal weaknesses, my lack of self-confidence, my identity, things like that. And so I had to really work on self-improvement and personal development. That was sort of my pathway to becoming a pretty successful entrepreneur, and that led me into sort of the self-help, personal development space because of entrepreneurship.
Okay, so we invited you here to talk about everyone's ultimate goal, which is happiness, but I think the big thing people need to learn is happiness for you is not exactly what makes me happy. So everybody's different.
I totally agree with that, and it's funny that you say that because I think one of the most contagious, we got the coronavirus thing going on right now, but one of the things that's really contagious is unhappiness in the world today. You know, the more I interact with people on social media, I do my program, to the extent that people are unhappy is shocking to me. And you know, with the stock market, all the things politically going on right now, you have to really be intentional about what you want in your life. And I think sometimes we think, once I get this car, or I get this relationship, or I get this promotion, then I'll allow myself to be happy. So we delay happiness to this future destination. The fact of the matter is, you're gonna bring you with you when you get to these places. So if you think you're gonna be happy when you get into your big mansion, you're gonna be in there with you. And so I always recommend something called blissful dissatisfaction, which is be intentional about getting your happiness now. You don't want a big house. You want a big house because you think that'll make you happy. You don't want a relationship. You do, but you think that relationship's going to make you happy. What if you could have the tools and strategies to give yourself the gift of that in the present moment? And the hook is, ironically, the more you can feed yourself with happiness and bliss now, the actually more likely you are to get the relationship, to get the house, to get the promotion, to get those external things.
So easier said than done. And
Yes.
how do we do that? One thing you're saying is not to compare.
Yeah, comparison is a formula. That's why social media is so dangerous. Comparison is a formula for misery. And what we do in our life is we compare ourselves to the best day and the best picture on social media that we see of somebody else. We compare ourselves at different times in our lives too. You know, even if you're in a relationship, comparing your relationship in its 5th year to its 5th week isn't fair to that relationship. There's different stages in our life. So comparison is a pathway. There's pathways to happiness, and there's pathways that lead us to unhappiness. One of those for sure is comparison, and it's an ego thing oftentimes with us. We're always trying to one-up things in our life. It's a matter, I think, really, of being more present in the moment in your life and saying, I deserve to be happy right now. And the one thing I would add to that is, you can't be happy if you don't love yourself. And you can't love yourself if you're not being yourself. If you can begin to live in congruence with your values, your beliefs, and find a way to serve other people, that's always a pathway to your own bliss, to your own happiness.
And that's one thing I've seen. I've watched your videos and follow you, and you say the same thing, that you are living, you're giving back. You have a purpose and you're giving back to others, and that fulfills you.
Yeah, for me, I figured it out a little bit later in life. I used to think, well, I want to be rich, and I do. I think having material things to some extent can give you temporary happiness, and certainly be able to feed your family and provide education for your family. That's an important thing. But I found out finally in my life, you know what really gives me joy? Gives me joy is to help other people, is to serve other people. One thing I think that's not said enough in the world, and since we only have a little bit of time, is I want everyone to understand this. You were born to do something great with your life. You were. Every single human being was born to do something special with their lives. And the 2 best days of your life is the day you're born and the day you figure out why. And when you figure that out, and it'll be a pathway. If you're listening to this, you want to be happier, begin to think about some of your natural gifts, things that you're good at, that you enjoy doing. How could you use those in the service of other people? I promise you that's the pathway to you being a happier person.
I think in a town like this too, or Southern California in general, that you see a lot of people that look like they have everything and they're miserable.
You're so right.
Yeah.
So I have a show where I interview kind of top achievers. And, you know, athletes, entertainers, business people. And when I started the show, I thought it's going to be fascinating to find out what they all have in common. Is it hard work, brilliance, charisma? And frankly, it's a skosh of unhappiness. Because achievers, even people like yourself, and this is people that are out there like that too, should consider this. We have this thing where we're really never living up to what we think we're capable of. And that's a good thing because it pulls us to get better. But it can also be a formula for misery if you never just decide. You know, a lot of achievers think, well, if I enjoy this moment right now, I'm going to lose my drive. I'm going to lose my ambition. So they cheat themselves for all of the joy, all of the juice that comes from winning. And I found if you give yourself that dopamine hit when you achieve something, you allow yourself to enjoy it, your brain wants to do it again and again and again. But if you rob yourself of it, that's when burnout starts to happen because you're not giving yourself any of the rewards for your hard work.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We could talk to you for a really long time.
I enjoyed it.
But the good news is you can always go on Ed's website and you can follow him on social media and you can listen to his podcast. There's all the information for you there. You feel good?
Yeah, I feel great. Enjoy that drive back to Newport Beach.
I will. Thank you.
Happiness.
Might suck a little happiness out of you.
Just be very present and think of it as a gift.
Yeah.
Have that amount of time to be with yourself.
Yes.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become a part of the Max Out community. And tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and I select winners that get all kinds of prizes, gear, coaching calls with me. Make a comment.